Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Habari hapo, asante sana kwa kutazama Rapheal vitabu tena. Jina langu ni DAMILOLA RAPHEAL. Hey, all of that is Swahili for hello there, and thank you very much for joining us again on the show, The Bookshelf. I can't do it. Look at the picture.
Our economy, films, and music are well known throughout Africa. But when our wildlife is in crisis, it is bad for our reputation. We are losing our lions, elephants, and gorillas. But Nigeria can change that if we say no to illegal bushmeat and report wildlife crime. Because poaching steals from us all.
What's cute, harmless, and depends on its mother for food and protection? Well, me of course, but also a shy little creature called the pangolin. Hundreds of thousands of pangolins are hunted and killed every year just for their meat and scales. If we continue this way, the pangolins will soon disappear. We can't allow this to happen. Tell your families and friends to say no to illegal bushmeat from pangolins and other protected animals. Keep them wild, keep us safe.
Habari hapo, asante sana kwa kutazama Rapheal vitabu tena. Jina langu ni DAMILOLA RAPHEAL. Now all of that is Swahili for hello there. Thank you very much for watching The Bookshelf again. My name is DAMILOLA RAPHEAL. The Bookshelf on Western Spring Television is the curve. You can insert the prefix learning to that, the learning curve, where we discuss everything and everyone having a relationship with books. Sometime in August, we learned the word bibliophile. Let's take a look. Book collecting is the collecting of books, including seeking, locating, acquiring, organizing, cataloging, displaying, storing, and maintaining whatever books are of interest to a given collector. The love of books is bibliophilia, and someone who loves to read, admire, and a person who collects books is often called a bibliophile, but can also be known as a biblioletter, meaning being overly devoted to books, or a bookman, which is another term for a person who has a love of books. And then, early this December, we came across the term Bibliosma. Let's take a look again. Let's move on. Bibliosma. Now, I found Bibliosima in some parts, but I found that the correct term is actually Bibliosma. Bibliosma, the word for loving the smell of old books. Bibliosma is the smell and aroma of a good old book. It is best described as the smell of vanilla flowers. The chemical reaction behind Bibliosma is going to be explained right about now. The smell is produced due to the breakdown of the two chemical components in the paper, the cellulose and the lignine. The byproducts of the chemical process produce that book odor. As a result of this chemical process, toluene and ethylbenzene produce a sweet odor, while vanillin produces a vanilla odor. In addition, benzaldehyde and phosphorol produce an almond odor, while 2-ethyl-hexanol produces a flowery odor. Historical dating uses Bibliosma similarly to carbon dating. Because of this, scientists can examine the chemicals produced to know the age of a book. The process is therefore called material degradonomics. Now tell me, we did some science right there. And of course, it's not just wine that's vintage. Books can also be vintage. Now, here, today, we will be overcoming the ostrich policy, dealing with the feeling that loads of folks shy away from, forgetting the saying that he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. For me, another day is not meant for dealing with a repeated or repeating cycle of negatives. Nah, my another day is for discovering, exploring, conquering, and developing the new. You should emulate such, don't you think? It has been said that fear arises with the threat of harm, either physical, emotional, or psychological, real or imagined. While traditionally considered a negative emotion, fear actually serves an important role in keeping us safe, as it mobilizes us to cope with potential danger. And that is why we will be looking at fear relating to books and education. This is the bookshelf after all. A phobia is an uncontrollable, irrational, and persistent fear of a certain object, situation, or activity. This fear can be so overwhelming that a person may go to great lengths to avoid the source of this fear. Phobias typically result in a rapid onset of fear and are usually present for more than 6 months. Phobia can be caused by genetic and environmental factors. There are many different types of phobia, but I'll be listing 10 of them. 1. Claustrophobia, the fear of being in a constricted or a confined space. 2. Aerophobia, the fear of flying. Arachnophobia is the fear of spiders. Driving phobia is the fear of driving a car. Emetophobia, the fear of vomiting. Erythrophobia is the fear of blushing. Can you beat that? Hypochondria is the fear of becoming ill. I've seen quite a number of persons with that. Zoophobia is the fear of animals. Some of us are. Aquaphobia, the fear of water. Acrophobia, number 10, the fear of heights. Now, because George Adai is credited with the quote, "Everything you've ever wanted is sitting on the other side of fear." We'll be discussing possible treatment on the other side of treating today's main focus, which is bibliophobia. Bibliophobia is an intense fear of books or of reading. It is a type of anxiety disorder. I mean, books are almost everywhere, and they are difficult to avoid in everyday life. Bibliophobia can cause significant stress and even physical symptoms. It can disrupt daily life and also affect success in school and work. The condition can affect a person's education, social experiences, and career path. A person with bibliophobia might fear all books or only a specific kind, such as textbooks or children's books. Someone with bibliophobia might be afraid of books themselves, the stories they contain, or the act of reading a book. So either you're afraid of the book itself, the story in it, that's the content, or just the act of you now going through the process of taking the knowledge from it off of the pages, going beyond the written pages to yourself. And there have been, many different points in the life of an individual where you find them wanting to read a particular course or subject and just wanting to avoid the other one. Let's dig in further. It is hard knowing exactly how many people have a specific phobia, like bibliophobia, that's the fear of books. Many people may keep this fear to themselves, or they may not even recognize that they have it in the first place. Bibliophobia may be related to other specific phobias, including one, arithmophobia. That's the extreme fear of numbers. People with arithmophobia may fear all numbers, or they may fear specific numbers only. Sometimes, arithmophobia is rooted in superstitions about numbers, what they've heard from their seniors, their predecessors, their elderly ones, are saying, oh, Baba Mas, for those of us in the southwestern parts of Nigeria, just all of that fear of, oh, maths. And it's not so much that's in it. We've read different stories, biographies and autobiographies of persons who were told that maths is one such difficult subject, but by the time they're getting to learn it, they find that, oh, this thing is not as difficult as it were, or it was told to us. I remember we brought in a guest here on Bookshelf who has had that testimony of himself. I deliberately told myself, you are going to be talking about bibliophobia. You will not avoid this yourself. So number 2, hippopotamonstrosesque. Okay, I'll take it again. Hippopotamonstrosesquipedalophobia. My goodness, that's so long. And guess what? It's the feeling of shame or the fear of ridicule for mispronouncing long words, long terms. Even, just imagine that, having to pronounce all of that length, and it may cause, distress or anxiety. If I did it, I believe you can. Let's move to number 3, logophobia. This is an irrational or disproportionate fear of words. Children with learning disorders or logophobia may still cultivate a love for books with graphic novels, comics, or picture books, telling picture stories. And this one here, metrophobia. This is a strong dislike of or aversion to poetry, to reading about legends. That's one right there. There is so much for us to discuss with regards to the different kinds of other types of fear that falls under this category that relates to book learning and education under bibliophobia for today. We'll be looking at the treatment. We've talked about some of the causes, could be genetic, could be based on what someone somewhere had told them about the fear of books. And it could just be, as I said, genetics, something that you have to train yourself over. It could be because of an experience as well. You've heard from someone, you've seen someone who you were reading, and then all of a sudden, the person is being bullied. How could you say that? How could you do that? How could you pronounce this like that? And then they develop a fear for wanting to read books or to stand in the presence of a people, a crowd, a group of people to listen to them. I'll give us a very quick example. If you have seen that old movie, it is an old movie, and it is the Mary Claiborne story, A Mother's Strength. One of her sons, Isaiah, he had issues with having to read or stand and have a presentation in front of his classmates. But this is one child that will go right there into the basketball court, and he is going to give you a big show for it. Now you wonder, which crowd is more? The crowd in his classroom or the crowd right there on the basketball pitch? Thankfully, his coach, his teacher, and his mother never gave up on him. and he was able to deliver the poem that eventually got him a scholarship for him to further his education. You may just want to check out at that particular story. I mean, even with movies, there is a whole lot of them. For example, you have Akila and the Bee, who had issues with spellings and thought, because of the environment, thought, no, we can't go beyond this. There is a threshold and nobody has beat it. I don't think I can. Remember, I said if I can't do it, then you can as well. There's so many examples of people, not just on the silver screen that we see, but people in our everyday life. And we can learn from these people on silver screen on how best to be able to relate with the people in our everyday lives and be able to come up with solutions for them. A lot of times, there are no hard and fast rules. Remember, I mentioned earlier on that professionals have not been able to group some of this phobia. So it's based on some person's experiences, and of course, research is being done, some theories, and all of that research coming up with a particular result. Who knows whether what you are doing or what you're experiencing is where we will be getting the result. Let us take this very, very quick breather, and then we'll come back on the other side of it to talk more on our topic for today, Bibilophobia. I'll be right back.
Jeremiah Onyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1909. Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history. This iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Oshogun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okeogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The man who authored the Yoruba dictionary was also credited for the translation of English classic hymns into Yoruba and the Ekwere languages. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's private residence in Badagry, incidentally the first story building in Nigeria, is an Akaba museum dedicated to the memory of Africa's first bishop. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ajayi Crowther as a watershed character in history.
We all want to do our best to win for our team. But right now, we're losing to the illegal trade in wildlife. Illegal bushmeat is on sale in our cities, risking extinction and our health. We've become a centre for ivory and pangolin smuggling, and many of our iconic species are threatened with extinction. So please report wildlife crime and say no to illegal bushmeat. And let's work together to win for Nigeria. Keep them wild, keep us safe.
Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Fumilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotu Ransom Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela Ade Ololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Fumilayo Ransom Kuti as a watershed character in history. Aminatu, the legendary Queen of Zazzau, is best known to historians as Queen Amina of Zaria, an old walled town and capital of the Hausa state of Zazzau. Amina was a great warrior and the first woman to rule the ancient kingdom of Zazzau. Her 34 years as queen witnessed an unprecedented expansion of Zazzau by conquests. Queen Amina of Zaria belongs to the class of Amazons by the might of her army and her strings of conquests. She opened Zaria to trans-border trade and was said to have initiated kola nut cultivation in the ancient kingdom. The Hausa Muslim figure was born in 1533 and died in 1610 at the age of 77 years. Folklores remember Aminatu, the Queen of Zazzau, as a brave, smart and talented leader whose giant statue now adorns the National Arts Theatre in Lagos, Nigeria, while many educational institutions bear her name. Western Spring Television identifies Queen Amina as a watershed character in history.
Rum,